Welcome to Rhema Words of Faith, Daily Bread Devotionals. Today we're reflecting on the powerful verse from Psalm 18 verse 2, which says, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold." This verse paints a beautiful picture of the many ways God is our strength, protection, and source of salvation. In this world, we face many challenges, trials, and struggles that can make us feel weak or vulnerable. But in this verse, David, the psalmist, reminds us that God is a rock, a solid foundation we can rely on. He is a fortress, a place of safety, where we can find refuge. And He is a deliverer, the one who rescues us from harm. As we break down this verse, we'll explore what it means to find our strength and security in God. Whether you're facing a tough season or simply seeking reassurance, in the daily battles of life, this verse invites us to draw near to God as our unshakable foundation. Today, let's reflect on how we can lean into God's protection and find refuge in Him, knowing He is our rock and deliverer. Psalm 18 verse 2 begins with the powerful phrase, "The Lord is my rock." A rock is something solid, unmovable, and stable. When David calls God his rock, he's acknowledging that God is the firm foundation he can rely on, no matter what comes his way. Life can feel like a constant storm. There are moments when it feels like everything around us is shifting or crumbling. In those times, God remains a steady, unshakable foundation. He is not swayed by the winds of change, and He will never be moved by the challenges we face. When we make God our rock, we are choosing to place our trust in Him rather than in the fleeting things of this world. We are saying that we believe God is bigger than our problems and that He has the power to sustain us through anything. This doesn't mean that life will be free of difficulty, but it does mean that with God as our rock, we have a firm place to stand. When everything else is uncertain, God remains constant. Let this truth remind you today that no matter what you're facing, you have a solid foundation in God. He is your rock, and nothing can shake Him. The next part of Psalm 18 verse 2 says, "My fortress." A fortress is a strong, fortified place, where one can retreat to find protection and safety. In biblical times, fortresses were built on high ground to provide defense against enemies, offering both protection and a strategic advantage. David is using this imagery to describe how God is a place of safety for him. When we face life's difficulties, it's easy to feel vulnerable, as though we are exposed to the attacks of fear, doubt, or temptation. But God is our fortress. He is our refuge, a safe place where we can rest and find protection. He shields us from harm and gives us a place to retreat when the world feels overwhelming. Just like a fortress provides safety from external threats, God's presence shields us from the fears and stresses that can come from the world around us. When we seek refuge in God, we are choosing to trust in His ability to protect us from the things that threaten our peace. He is our fortress, and when we turn to Him, we can rest in the knowledge that He is keeping us safe, both physically and spiritually. No matter the battles we face, we can find shelter in God's presence. The psalmist continues saying, "My deliverer." To deliver means to rescue, to set free, to pull someone out of danger. David acknowledges that God is the one who delivers him from his enemies and from peril. In life, we often face situations where we feel trapped or in danger, whether that's from external circumstances, like financial struggles or health issues, or internal battles, like fear or anxiety. We can find comfort in knowing that God is our deliverer. He is not just a passive observer. He is actively at work rescuing us from harm. God's deliverance can come in many forms. Sometimes it's a miraculous breakthrough, and sometimes it's His quiet strength in the midst of our trials. But one thing is certain: God is always ready to deliver us. We are never stuck in a situation without hope. When we call on God as our deliverer, we are acknowledging that He has the power to rescue us from any situation. This can give us confidence and hope, knowing that no matter how difficult our circumstances may seem, God is always there to help us find a way out. He is the one who rescues us, and His power is greater than anything we face. Psalm 18 verse 2 also says, "My shield." A shield is a defensive weapon used to protect oneself from attacks. It provides a sense of security, blocking the impact of any blows that might come our way. David recognizes that God is his shield, his protection from harm. In our lives, we face many challenges that try to knock us down, whether they come in the form of physical danger, emotional wounds, or spiritual attacks. But God is our shield, and He surrounds us with His protection. He covers us from all angles, keeping us safe from things that threaten our well-being. Just as a shield defends against arrows or blows, God defends us from the attacks of the enemy. We may not always be able to see the danger coming, but God is always at work protecting us. His shield not only defends us from physical threats, but also from the emotional and spiritual attacks that can leave us vulnerable. When we face trials or feel overwhelmed, we can remember that God is our shield, surrounding us with His protection and giving us the strength to stand firm. He is our defense, and with Him we are safe. The verse continues saying, "The horn of my salvation." The term horn in the Bible is often used to symbolize strength and power. In ancient times, an animal's horn was seen as a symbol of its strength, used to defend and protect. When David refers to God as the horn of my salvation, he's acknowledging that God is the source of his strength and deliverance. Just as a horn provides strength to an animal in battle, God's strength is what enables us to overcome the challenges and enemies we face. Our salvation, our rescue, and our victory are not due to our own strength or abilities, but because of God's mighty power at work in us. This part of the verse reminds us that salvation is not just a one-time event, but a continual act of God's strength in our lives. God's power is the force that delivers us from danger, from sin, from death, and from the things that try to hold us captive. When we place our trust in God as the horn of our salvation, we are relying on His strength to sustain us and to keep us safe. No matter what challenges we face, we can stand firm in the assurance that God's mighty strength is behind us, enabling us to walk in victory. Finally, Psalm 18 verse 2 concludes with, "My stronghold." A stronghold is a place of safety and refuge, a secure place where one can find protection. In ancient times, strongholds were often high up on a hill, making it difficult for enemies to attack. These strongholds were built to withstand forces trying to break in, providing a safe haven for those inside. David acknowledges that God is his stronghold, the place where he finds safety, peace, and refuge. In our own lives, we need a stronghold, especially when life becomes overwhelming. Whether it's stress, worry, fear, or difficulty, we need a place where we can go to be safe and secure. God is that stronghold for us. He is the one who surrounds us and keeps us safe from harm. When life's challenges seem too great to handle, we can run to God as our stronghold, knowing that He is our refuge and that He is always there to protect us. When we face difficulties, God's stronghold is not just a place of physical safety, but also of emotional and spiritual security. In Him we find peace, protection, and the confidence to face whatever lies ahead. Psalm 18 verse 2 highlights the comprehensive protection God offers. God is not only a rock, fortress, and deliverer. He is also our shield, horn of salvation, and stronghold. These words paint a picture of God's all-encompassing protection in every area of our lives. He is not just a protector from physical harm, but also from emotional turmoil, spiritual attack, and internal struggles. This multidimensional protection means that no part of our being is left unprotected. Whether we are physically struggling, battling with anxiety, facing spiritual doubts, or dealing with personal challenges, God's protection covers us in every way. This means that, no matter what we face, we don't have to handle it alone. God is present and active in protecting us from things that threaten our peace and well-being. This truth empowers us to face challenges with confidence, because we know that God is with us in every aspect of life. When we take refuge in God, we can be assured that we are safe from harm, and that His protection is always greater than any threat we encounter. God's protection is comprehensive, giving us security, peace, and the assurance that He will never leave us vulnerable to the enemy's attacks. One of the most comforting aspects of Psalm 18 verse 2 is knowing that God's role as our rock, fortress, deliverer, shield, horn of salvation, and stronghold is unchanging. Our circumstances may shift, people may disappoint us, and life can be unpredictable. But God's nature and His promises never change. He is always faithful to be our refuge and strength, regardless of what we face. This means that we can trust Him completely, knowing that He is steadfast and reliable. When everything else in life feels uncertain, we can rest in the truth that God's protection and support are constant. His unchanging nature gives us a firm foundation to stand on, knowing that He will always be who He has promised to be. Just as a rock remains unmoved despite the waves crashing against it, God remains constant and unshakable, no matter the storms we face. This is why we can confidently say that God is our refuge. He will never let us down. When we put our trust in His unchanging nature, we can find peace and security, knowing that He will never leave us or forsake us. Psalm 18 verse 2 paints a beautiful picture of God's all-encompassing protection and strength. He is our rock, our fortress, our deliverer, our shield, the horn of our salvation, and our stronghold. With God by our side, we can walk confidently through life, knowing that we are safe in His protection. No matter what challenges come our way, we can take refuge in Him and trust that He will provide the strength, guidance, and peace we need. If this message has encouraged you today, remember that God's protection is always available to you. If you're facing a challenge, turn to God as your rock and refuge. Please like, comment, and share this video with someone who may need this reminder. And don't forget to subscribe for more messages of encouragement and hope. Keep trusting in God's protection, knowing that He is always with you, always faithful, and always your stronghold.